Hello friends, I'm Sara, your host from Echoes of Old Rooms. Today's story is not just about crime or betrayal. It's about greed, a different kind. Not for money alone, but for power, for control, for love twisted into something darker. I interviewed a woman serving a life sentence in one of the most silent corners of a women's prison. Her crime: murdering her own husband. But what shocked me wasn't the crime itself. It was the truth behind it. A truth she whispered, like she had been waiting years for someone to actually listen. This is her story. Her name is Emily Shore. 28 years old. Pretty. Too quiet for someone accused of such a violent crime. She didn't flinch when I sat across from her. Didn't ask who I was or why I came. She just looked at me with tired eyes and said, "He never even touched the gun. Not the real killer anyway." I didn't interrupt. She continued, "You know, when I met Jason, thought it was love. Real burning, dizzying love. But now, I think it was hunger. Mine and his." I asked, "Who's Jason?" She smiled faintly. "He was everything I thought I needed. Young, reckless, full of charm. And most of all, he saw me. Not as someone's wife. Not as the quiet rich girl who married for comfort. But as a woman. As his woman." Her tone shifted. Not bitter. Not angry. But distant. Like recalling a dream that turned into a nightmare. My husband, Richard, was 26 years older than me. Businessman. Dark. Cold. He wasn't cruel. He just wasn't there. Not really. Our house was made of marble, but it never had warmth. Jason came into her life like a fire in winter. A friend of a friend. A casual smile at a dinner party. Then a message. Then another. He made me laugh again. Touched my hand like it meant something. Said I deserved to feel alive. He paused. And I believed him. It started with late-night texts. Then secret meetings. And Jason started asking questions. How much is Richard worth? Do you have access to his accounts? What happens if something unexpected happens to him? Emily brushed her hair behind her ear. At first I thought he was just curious. Then I thought maybe he wanted us to run away. She leaned forward, her voice low. But the truth was, Jason never wanted me. He wanted what I was married to. Emily leaned back against the cold prison wall as she continued her story. He made it all sound so innocent, like we were just daydreaming. But Jason, he was always 10 steps ahead. Started with minor favors. He'd ask her to check her husband's emails. Then print one. He'd ask where Richard stored certain documents. He even convinced her to accidentally take a picture of Richard's checkbook during dinner. He never yelled, never pressured. He made me feel like I was helping us. But soon things escalated. Jason began using her access. He convinced her to talk Richard into adding her name to several accounts. It felt wrong, but I told myself I deserved it. After all, I was the wife. What was his was mine, right? Jason's charm was addictive. He never asked me to leave Richard. He just made me want to. Said freedom had to be earned, not given. He paused. I didn't realize he was grooming me to take the fall. Emily said Jason convinced her to tell Richard that she wanted a divorce. Not because she truly did, but because Jason claimed Richard was hiding assets from her, and this would shake them loose. But when she brought it up at dinner one night, Richard didn't get angry. He got calm. Calm. He said, "I figured you might one day. That's why none of the accounts are in your name." That night Jason changed. He was cold, quiet. Then he snapped. "Why are you defending him? After everything we've planned?" Emily felt trapped. She'd lied, betrayed her husband, opened accounts, stolen information. And now Jason was turning distant, blaming her for the failure. I was the pawn who had played her part badly. A week later, Jason came up with the plan. He said it would be fast, clean, and he would help me through it. They would make it look like self-defense. Richard was old. One push down the stairs. No cameras. She'd cry. Call 911. Jason would arrive minutes later. Act like a witness. I didn't agree. I didn't say yes. But Jason, he made it sound like I already had. The night it happened, Emily says her hands were shaking. She walked into the study. Tried to tell Richard she was leaving. He stood up, confused, not angry. He pushed him. Once. It wasn't hard. But he stumbled back. Hit his head. It was over in 10 seconds. She collapsed next to him, screaming. Jason showed up just like he said minutes later. But this time he didn't comfort her. He looked down at me. And he smiled. The police arrived an hour later. Jason had already given them a full statement. He said he had heard a fight from outside. That Richard had been abusive. That Emily acted in fear. Emily sat on the steps, silent, broken. I thought it was over. But it was just beginning. Emily's voice trembled as she leaned forward. Eyes locked on mine. "Do you know what betrayal feels like, Sara?" Doesn't scream. Smiles. It says, "I did this for you." After the funeral, everything moved fast. Jason was by her side constantly, bringing her food, handling paperwork, comforting her in public. But behind the scenes, he was in full control. He said it would be easier if everything stayed in my name, just for legal reasons. But he also had me sign dozens of forms. Bank transfers. Access requests. I didn't even know what I was signing. Within 3 months, Jason had full control over Richard's remaining estate. And then, he vanished. No goodbye. No message. One morning he just didn't come home. He tried calling, texting, even went to his old apartment. No trail. No leads. Then came the knock at the door. Police. Search warrant. Bank fraud investigation. They found emails. From me. Transferring funds. Approving purchases. It all looked like I'd planned the entire thing. She tried to explain. Told them about Jason. His real name. His role. But they found no record of him. That's when it hit me. I didn't even know his real last name. The police didn't believe her. There was no man in the official witness list. No neighbor saw him enter the house. No digital trail. Jason had deleted every trace of himself. And left me holding the knife. During the trial, her lawyers tried for diminished responsibility. Emotional manipulation. Mental breakdown. But the jury didn't buy it. They called me cold. Calculated. A gold digger who killed her husband and made up a lover. Even worse. The prosecution revealed something Emily didn't expect. Jason had reported the suspicious behavior anonymously days before the murder. said he was a concerned neighbor. He planted the entire narrative before it even happened. Her hands shook as she spoke. He wasn't just planning to use me. He was planning to destroy me from the beginning. She looked at me, her voice almost a whisper now. Do you think I'm innocent, Sara? I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know what I believed, but because I saw the war inside her eyes. A woman who had done the unthinkable, but never realized she was never the one holding the gun. Emily sits in prison now, serving life without parole. Her story is sealed in court records, forgotten behind bricks and bars. But the man who planned it all, he's still out there. New name, new life, new target maybe. He told me once, she said. People don't see the puppeteer. They only see the puppet falling. There was a long silence in the room. Emily was no longer trying to defend herself, no longer seeking sympathy. She was telling the truth. Not for me, not for the world, but for herself. I think I knew the truth long before it all happened, but I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. In prison she had time, too much time to think. The details haunted her. Jason knew where Richard's backup safe was. Jason had printed legal transfer documents before Emily even asked for them. Jason used burner phones. He never gave her a real address. I wasn't in a relationship. I was in a setup. She described the moment in court that finally broke her. The prosecution played a phone call. A recording from just days before the murder. Jason's voice. Cold. Precise. Make it look like panic. You were scared. That's the story. Stick to it. And Emily's voice responded. But what if something goes wrong? Jason's reply was simple. It won't. If it does. You were just a grieving wife. Trust me. The jury heard it. The room went still. But instead of helping her case, it hurt it. It sounded like I agreed. Like I was in it. Like I was part of the planning. No one heard the fear in her voice. Only the words. Emily sat silently for a moment, then continued. There's something people don't talk about in these cases, Sara. The guilt that comes later. The kind that has nothing to do with prison. I leaned in. It's the guilt of realizing. You handed the knife to the person who stabbed you. And smiled while doing it. After sentencing, Emily stopped speaking to visitors. She didn't appeal. She didn't cry. Until one day something arrived in the mail. It wasn't a letter. No return address. Just an envelope with no markings. Inside was a photo. Jason. Alive. Smiling. On a beach. Holding a child. There was no note. Just the photo. He wanted me to see that he had moved on. That he had won. Emily clenched her fists. And he wanted me to know that I never mattered. For years, she lived with that photo hidden in a book. Until one day she burned it. I didn't burn it because I was angry. I burned it because I was finally done being his victim. She stared into the distance as if trying to see through the prison wall. I didn't kill my husband for money. I didn't kill him because I hated him. I killed him because I believed in someone who was never REA. I visited Emily for the last time 3 weeks after our final interview. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. She simply said, "Don't let this become just another story, Sara." I told her I wouldn't. But even now, retelling it, I wonder, Will anyone understand what she truly meant? Emily spends her days sewing prison uniforms in Block C. She reads a lot. Sometimes she helps other inmates write letters to families who stopped visiting long ago. There's a quiet strength in her now, not because she's healed, but because she's accepted. I made the choice. I didn't kill Jason, but I let him into my life. And that's what destroyed mine. 2 weeks ago, something unexpected happened. A man arrived at the prison, tall, late 20s, nervous hands. He asked to see Emily Shore. He said, "I think she knew my father." The guard asked his name. He replied, "Jason Walters." But his face was not the face from the photo Emily had once burned. The real Jason had used another man's identity the entire time. That man's son had grown up thinking his father had simply vanished. He found pieces of his father's history online. Fraud, fake names, offshore accounts. But what led him to Emily's story was this podcast. My podcast. We never aired Emily's full interview until now. Why? Because she asked us to wait until she was sure that someone somewhere might be listening for more than drama. She wanted her pain to become protection for someone else. Sometimes we think greed is only about money, but greed has many faces. The hunger for control, the lust for influence, the need to possess someone's heart, not to love them but to own them. Emily was not innocent, but she was not evil either. She was human, flawed, lonely, and ultimately, abandoned. To this day, no one has found the real Jason. But someone out there knows him by a different name. If you've ever trusted someone too quickly, loved someone too deeply, or believed in someone blindly, this story is for you. This was The Price of Desire. I'm Sara. And you've been listening to Echoes of Old Rooms. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and most of all, stay aware of the voices that whisper too sweetly.